The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 479 of Skywalking Through Neverland. Now, this D23 also celebrated the Sherman Brothers in a big way.
Feed the birds, tuppence a bag.
As for who is doing the whistling in Mary Poppins, you'll have to listen to the upcoming panel to find out who. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware. It's a small world after all. Okay, I can't even get through that. I don't know, because I have a story about that later.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So,
hold on. Now the song's stuck in my head.
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland.
Here we go.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets loud.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! Has all the D23 Disney news made you nostalgic for classic Disney films and a spoonful of sugar? Well, then this is the show for you. But before that sugar high kicks in, we want to welcome everyone back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, whose hat is 10 times too small for her head.
you're supposed to say, who is practically perfect in every way.
Take two. Who is practically perfect in every way.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
Oh, only took me twice to do it.
That's right. All right. Well, Skywalkers, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, and pop culture fandom. So it's time for your weekly Wookiee hug and your little sprinkle of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers. Now, we are live right now, for better or worse, on our Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel.
Oh, for better.
For better. No, I'm just kidding, because if you watch this episode live, you get a lot of behind-the-scenes fun stuff before we get to recording. So hello to all of you new subscribers from D23 and San Diego Comic-Con, and welcome back all of you vintage Skywalkers. Now, subscribing to our channel really helps. And Richard, how many subscribers do we have this week?
Well, we have
9,069. Holy buckets.
Every week it's going up, and it's going up higher and higher and higher. Do you know why? Because we ask the Skywalkers.
That's right.
Please help us with the subscriptions to our YouTube channel. You ask and they deliver.
Also, our Instagram, I have to say, has gone up by leaps and bounds. We are over 4,000 on Instagram. So thank you to all of our new Instagram followers as well.
But we have a new ask. Let's say by this time next week, we get to 9,075.
Yes, 9,075 subscribers on YouTube.
Yes. Normally we ask for 5 subscribers a week. This week we're asking for the big 6.
Yes.
The big 06.
I like it.
And I think they can do it.
I think
they
so.
can.
All right, well, at D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event presented by Visa, we attended Road to Cherry Tree Lane, Walt Disney's Mary Poppins panel, in which we learned the musical journey that Walt Disney Studios and the Sherman Brothers took to create Mary Poppins in 1964. Now, we recorded the audio from this fascinating panel to share with you as we celebrate the Sherman Brothers and their legendary contribution to the Walt Disney Company.
All right, now, before that, we have got to thank once again our sponsor, Small World Vacations. Now, they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to a Disney park around the world and on the Disney cruises. And best of all, this service is free. You heard me right, free of charge. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no-obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now, we are recording this episode from Long Beach, California on August 19th.
19th?
2024.
Yes. The summer is coming to a close.
It is. So, Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Oh, hold on.
Oh!
Gotta get prepared.
Oh, okay.
On this day in Star Wars history, August 19th, 1973, the world welcomed little Ahmed Best.
Oh!
That's right. Ahmed Best turns 51 years old today. And tilt the camera up a little bit.
Okay.
So we can see my Jar Jar hat.
Aww.
See? Look at that.
That's so cute.
All right. So Ahmed Best, he is the motion capture actor for Jar Jar Binks and provided the voice for Jar Jar Binks.
No, Mrs. Stay. Misa called Jar Jar Binks.
I can say our Jar Jar collection has grown leaps and bounds over the last, year when they produced a lot of new Jar Jar merchandise.
Well, yeah, because it's the 25th anniversary
Right.
of The Phantom Menace, and everyone is embracing
and they really,
Jar
embraced
Jar.
Ahmed Best and Jar Jar, and they really focused on Jar Jar Binks. Now, Ahmed Best, he's got to be really happy about his contribution to Star Wars because Jar Jar is the first fully computer-generated supporting character in a feature film.
I love it.
Now, Ahmed Best, he came back as Jedi Master Kelleran Beck. And he was on the show Jedi Temple Challenge, which was the kid game show. But then Kelleran Beck came back for The Mandalorian Season 3 when he was the Jedi that saved Grogu.
Mm-hmm. In Chapter 20, The Foundling.
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
So he's all over the Star Wars saga.
Nice.
And maybe he'll return in Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
I hope so.
Let's see.
Kelleran Beck. Love it.
Hashtag bring back Kelleran Beck.
All right, well, now let's get into our discussion on the Sherman Brothers and Mary Poppins.
Now, it's been a week since D23, the ultimate Disney fan event, brought to you by Visa, has closed its doors on 2024, and we still have so much great content to share with you Skywalkers. Now, we just put out on our YouTube channel a few of the Lucasfilm Pavilion Legacy Effects demos, and we also put out the Music of Marvel full panel out on our YouTube channel. And plus a thorough breakdown of D23 itself.
Yeah, we have so much content. It's crazy. We've been having a lot of fun putting that out all this past week. Now, this D23 also celebrated the Sherman Brothers in a big way. You know, they have contributed so much to Disney's legacy, so we wanted to take this episode to pay our own special tribute to them. We didn't get a chance since May to really do this. So we're going to give a brief history of the Sherman Brothers, we're going to share our personal stories, and then the Road to Cherry Tree Lane panel at D23. So here we go. So here's a brief history of the Sherman Brothers. Now, Robert and Richard Sherman, in the 1950s, they began writing songs together after serving in the U.S. Army. So after their army was over, they're like, okay, let's start writing songs. Apparently, their dad challenged them to write songs, and so they took up that challenge. Now, in 1960, they became the first and only staff songwriters to work at Walt Disney Studios. Now, can you name some films? Anyone here who's watching, can you name some films or things that the Sherman Brothers have worked on off the top of your head before I go through a list?
Well, pretty much everything.
Yes. What comes to your mind first?
Mary Poppins.
Yes, Mary Poppins, of course. All right. Yeah, they wrote over 200 songs for film, TV, and theme parks. Oh, we got Horsehead. Hey, Jeff. All right, we're asking you guys, what have the Sherman Brothers written that you remember? One specific, I loved Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Mm-hmm. I'll have to talk about that one.
Are they twins?
No, they are not.
Not twins.
They
okay.
are 2 or 3 years apart. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I didn't write down their birth dates, but I remember looking at them. Sound of Music. No, they did not write The Sound of Music. That is Rodgers and Hamilton. But good guess. I mean, Julie Andrews is their connection there.
Hammerstein? Hamilton?
Rodgers and Hammerstein. Did I say Hamilton?
You said
oh my
Hamilton.
God. I said Rodgers and Hamilton. Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote Sound of Music. That's so funny. All right. Well, I will go through this list right here. We got The Jungle Book. We've got The Parent Trap.
Oh,
which,
that's one of their best songs
Let's
ever.
Get Together. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. We got The Aristocrats. The Happiest Millionaire, which we recently watched.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, The Tiki Room. Yes. So they have also done theme park music. Also, The Sword in the Stone. They contributed some music to that. The Tigger movie score, including the song My Heart Will Lead You Home with Kenny Loggins, which is produced by our friend Bambi Moe. Remember that? And for TV, they also wrote The Wonderful World of Color, which is very cool. And then as for theme parks, we have the Tiki Room in the Tiki Room. There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, which goes with the Carousel of Progress, and One Little Spark, which is in Epcot. Now, this is just a few of them. Obviously, 200 projects. We're not going to list them all.
It's a Small World?
It's a small world. Yes, it's a small world.
How do you leave out that one?
I don't know, because I have a story about that later.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
So hold on. Now the song's stuck in my head.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Okay, but they also worked on non-Disney projects. So for 10 years, they were contracted with Disney. And then after that, they kind of they were known as the Sherman Brothers, and other people, contracted them. So Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I remember having this discussion. Like, I thought that was a Disney film.
Now that song is stuck in my head now.
I know. Oh, you chitty chitty bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang, we love you. And in chitty chitty bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang, what we'll do near, far, in our motor car. Oh, what a happy time we'll spend. Oh, bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang, our faithful fendered friend. Bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang, our faithful friendered chitty chitty friend. Thank you. You can't start it and not stop it, okay?
That was a whole South Park plot. Once you start a song, you gotta finish it.
Okay. Also, Charlotte's Web. This is like a random 1970s film that I remember watching, and the music is very cute. And lo and behold, it's Sherman Brothers. All right, so they have been awarded many awards. I'm just going to go through a few. So they won the Academy Award for the Mary Poppins score, 1964, and the song Chim Chim Cheree. So they actually got 2 Academy Awards out of that. In 1976, they got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Well, we've never seen that, have we?
I feel like we might have.
Wait, Jeff's in the chat right
yes.
now. Okay, Jeff's in the Sky chat. Jeff, you're
where
always
is
down
his
in the
star?
Hollywood area.
I feel like they're right around the El Capitan Theater.
They would have.
Yeah.
Well, when they got their star in 76.
Yeah, who knows where it was.
That wasn't the El Capitan.
Right, but they could move around stars. I mean, can't they? You don't think so?
No.
You don't think so? Okay. All right. I don't know.
That's it. Okay, for anyone in the Sky chat, if you have a second, look up where their star is, okay?
Yes. We're really pulling on the nostalgia nerves. Yes.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yes. Okay. Now, in June of 2005, Richard and Robert Sherman were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I mean, that's good. And then Richard... I couldn't think of the right word there.
Good.
I know what you're referring to. Okay. All right. Richard Sherman.
Pull in some Love Actually quotes now.
Yes. Good. Richard Sherman was awarded the Gold Medallion of Honor by UNICEF for his help in raising funds for children with HIV and AIDS. Fun fact.
That's not good. That's great.
Yes, it is. All right, now, Robert Sherman did pass away in 2012, and Richard Sherman just recently passed away this year on May 25th, 2024. All right, so I have a few stories about Richard Sherman.
Oh.
Because I have met him.
Oh, I want to hear these stories.
Yes. So this was before you. So in 2003, I was at...
This is BR.
This is BR, yes.
Before Richard.
Not BS, BR.
Okay. This story is not BS, it's BR.
Yeah. All right, so I had recently moved out to LA, and in 2003, I was invited with some friends to a movie guild or directors guild, some event, some guild event in Hollywood, where we viewed a movie, and then afterwards there was this reception, and I met Richard Sherman. He was there, and I had this whole discussion with him. It was probably a 5-minute conversation, and we talked about A Spoonful of Sugar. Now, I'm sure he's told this story multiple times, but me, as a young 20-something, I was like so excited to talk to Richard Sherman, and he was just so full of energy and life, and he discussed how A Spoonful of Sugar, he basically got the idea for this song by listening to John Philip Sousa's The Stars and Stripes Forever, where they have that piccolo, well-known solo. So that the piccolos have this whole thing above the melody of the march. So A Spoonful of Sugar, there is in one section of the melody, Mary Poppins looks out the window and a bird is tweeting, and then the bird lands on her finger and she proceeds to sing, and the bird sings a little counter melody above.
Okay, now I hear it.
Yes, and that was inspired by The Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa.
For a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, the medicine go down, medicine go down. Just a spoonful.
As for who is doing the whistling in Mary Poppins, you'll have to listen to the upcoming panel to find out who. That's a little tease. All right. So that was my first meeting with him. I was so delighted, and he just gives off this great aura. You know how some people just have that energy and life to them, like you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And you.
And he was very like that.
Because you are practically perfect in every way.
Let that sink in, everyone. No, I love it. Oh!
Well, I can imagine anyone who is so Disney-fied, who was around the era of Walt Disney, have got that aura. That magical aura.
Right. Or that like outlook on life, right? That's
a very positive.
Positive. Yes.
Yes. Very
that's a good
inspirational
word.
aura.
Yeah. All right. Now, the second time I met or saw Richard Sherman, because it wasn't a one-on-one this time. This was at Disneyland, the 50th anniversary of It's a Small World attraction, and this was April 10th, 2014. Now, some of you might be saying, hey, It's a Small World wasn't in Disneyland in 1964, but it was at the World's Fair. So this was for the actual World's Fair debut of It's a Small World. Now, Richard Sherman was invited, and they had this whole ceremony in front of It's a Small World, and they had a piano sitting right there in front of that whole Small World theater.
Oh, wow.
It was really amazing, and Richard Sherman played the song on a piano in front of the attraction. He played It's a Small World, and then explained how he and Robert had come up with the words for the 1964 World's Fair, in which countries were all coming together in peace and harmony. And then he played a much slower version of It's a Small World After All, and he sang the words.
It's a world of laughter, a world of tears. It's a world of hopes and a world of fears. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware. It's a small world after.
Well, there's something you don't want to miss.
Yeah, he played a bit of that. So if you listen to the words, it's a world of laughter, a world of tears. It's a world of hopes and a world of fears. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware. It's a small world after all. Okay, I can't even get through that without, like, if you actually think of the meaning to those words.
Wow.
Isn't that?
Yeah, you know what? You hear those words a million times in your life. You hear it while going through the ride. You hear everyone singing it. Mm-hmm. But not until you actually see the words that you know how powerful they are.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
Wow.
So that was a touching moment, and just seeing Richard Sherman play that piano. And then after that, he went in a cavalcade, you know, as a parade through Disneyland in the motor car, and everyone was singing It's a Small World. Like, we had this whole, like, everyone in the park was singing it, and it was just a really cool experience.
Wow. All right. I'm looking up to see where their star is.
Oh.
It's 6914 Hollywood Boulevard. You were right. It is very close to the El Capitan Theater.
Oh, Okay, good.
That's right where the hamburger Hamlet is
That's
or
why.
was.
That's why I'm pretty sure we've seen it because we always walk that way over
Yes.
to get to the theater.
Yes.
Okay. Well, next time we're there, we'll have to take a picture. Yay for the Sherman Brothers. All right. So even though we missed the Sherman Brothers tribute panel on Sunday, on Saturday at D23, Disney music historian Randy Thornton hosted a panel in which he shares how Walt's daughters, Diane and Sharon, Davy Crockett, Disneyland Vista Records, and Annette Funicello were all very crucial intersections and parts of On the Road to Cherry Tree Lane, where it all led up to Mary Poppins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was great, and you'll hear some great history. Also, you'll hear some audio experts. You'll hear some audio excerpts from the story meetings between the Sherman Brothers and P.L. Travers, who is the writer of the Mary Poppins books. And if you watch this episode on YouTube, you'll also see a slideshow of images to go along with the discussion. So here we are, The Road to Cherry Tree Lane, Walt Disney's Mary Poppins.
I'm Randy Thornton, supervisor, producer, and music historian at Walt Disney Records, and welcome to The Road to Mary Poppins. Walt Disney first met Mary Poppins in the late 1930s, early 1940s. While at home, he heard his daughters, Diane and Sharon, laughing giggly in another room, so he went to go see what was going on. And Diane, who had always been a voracious reader, said, "Oh, Daddy, it's Mary Poppins." He read through the stories and he was intrigued. And if nothing else, it'd be a nice little project that he could do for his girls. So he reached out to author P.L. Travers and her publisher to see about getting the film rights. The answer was no. And that little dance went back and forth for about 20 years. In December 1941, the United States entered World War II. Two-thirds of Walt's staff was sent off to fight in the war, and those that remained did propaganda and training films in support of the war effort, designed insignias for various branches of the armed services, painted nose art for the planes of the Army Air Corps, and two-thirds of the world was cut off. There was no movie distribution or anything. And by war's end, Walt's studio, like the rest of the world, was in rough financial shape. He needed to do everything he could to help shore up the business, and it's one of the reasons why he returned to the plastic fairy tale. He couldn't afford to take the risk of doing experimental films like Fantasia and Bambi. So he began with Cinderella, hoping to recapture the success of Snow White. It was also at this time that Walt felt, probably at the urgings of his brother Roy, to diversify the company, to get into more lines of business. That way all their eggs weren't in one basket. And one of the things he did was start his own music publishing company. Prior to that, the music was published by an outside company, and the composers and the songwriters got paid, but because this other publisher, they technically owned it, so they got a piece of it as well. So now, with Walt being able to publish his own music, composers and songwriters would get paid, but now some of that revenue would go back into the company to help shore up everything. Walt was able to negotiate and get a lot of the scores back for the previous 10 years up until about 1940, and some of the shorts and symphonies later on. This way, now that Walt owned everything, if someone like Perry Como did a recording of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo on his record label, composers would get paid, and now the music publishing company would get paid. And speaking of records, it was about this time that Walt's brother Roy and Jimmy Johnson, Walt's brother Roy and Jimmy Johnson, head of consumer products, talked to Walt about starting a record label. But Walt really wasn't interested in a record label. He was actually preoccupied with another form of entertainment, one that the major studios were either afraid of or thought was a passing fad, and that was television. Walt's first venture into television was a Christmas special called An Hour in Wonderland. A few years later, he premiered Disneyland, a weekly anthology series which had a bunch of different genres that he can explore, and it was also going to be a good marketing tool for his other big project, one that my friend, Imagineer, the late Bruce Gordon, referred to as Walt's ultimate train layout, which was Disneyland. So we had the Disneyland program, and Walt also created a weekday television show for kids called the Mickey Mouse Club. But it was a program on the Disneyland show that changed Walt's mind about having a record label.
Born on the mountaintop of Tennessee, green estate in the land of the free, raised in the woods so he knew every tree, killed him a bar when he was only 3. Davy, Davy.
People were singing the ballad of Davy Crockett while they were wearing their coonskin caps through this whole Davy Crockett craze. People like Bill Hayes, who unfortunately an actor who passed away this last January, had a big hit with it, along with Tennessee Ernie Ford and numerous others. So the popularity of those records said, Walt goes, okay, we'll do a record label. Before it really got running, Walt made a distribution deal, well actually it was Jimmy Johnson that made the distribution deal with a company called Empire Records, American Broadcasting Company, Paramount. And if you have any recollection of our recent history at Disney, it's really kind of ironic. Eisner and Wells and everybody came from Paramount, and well, we own ABC. And that was primarily to do 78 RPMs of our MM series, which is to promote the Mickey Mouse Club. When the record label started in earnest, Jimmy Johnson selected for the creative lead Salvador Camarada, better known as Tootie Camarada. Now, Tootie was a renowned musician, composer, arranger. He played with both Jimmy and Tommy Dorsey, becoming Jimmy's lead trumpet. He did arrangements for Benny Goodman, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Bing Crosby. I mean, I could spend all day going through the people that he did arrangements and worked with. One of the side effects of Tootie getting this gig as the A&R director at Disneyland Vista Records was that he founded Sunset Sound Recorders, which in my opinion is the American Abbey Road. You should Google it. It's very, very interesting. Shortly after Tootie started, Annette Funicello sang How Will I Know My Love in an episode of Spin and Marty on the Mickey Mouse Club. And the studio was inundated with requests for a record of that song. So Jimmy goes over to Tootie and goes, hey, this one's an easy one. Just bring Annette in here and have her sing. Tootie goes, no. I think Annette can have a recording career of her own. And if we release How Will I Know My Love, we don't know whether it's her or whether it's the song. Let me find the right song for her first single. All right, you're the music guy. Then one of the sales reps on the East Coast for the label, Mo Prescal, heard a song on the radio. He drove to the radio station, found out what the song was, and sent a copy of it to Tootie. And Tootie thought it was a perfect fit. And in no time, Annette was in the studio recording her first, what would become her hit single.
Oh, wait, but I'm there. It's there.
All right, please. Charlie. Take 6.
1, 2, 2.
Chalk on the sidewalk, writing on the wall. Everybody knows it. I love Paul, Tall Paul.
Obviously, that's Tall Paul by Richard and Robert Sherman. And to Tootie's credit, he didn't just take that song and run. He hired the Shermans to write even more songs for Annette, many more songs, to the point that it finally got Walt's attention. And Jimmy McDonald called the boys, no, Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy McDonald's the sound effects guy. Jimmy Johnson's the head of consumer products and running the label. Jimmy called the boys up and said, Walt's really interested in you writing a song that Annette can sing in an upcoming film called The Horsemasters. The Sherman goes, no problem. We'll have something for you in a couple of days. And in a couple of days, the Shermans arrived on the Disney Studio lot, and in typical Sherman fashion, they didn't have one song, they had 4. Jimmy met them at the gate, and as they're walking down Mickey Avenue, he turns to the boys and says, now remember, he doesn't like to be called Mr. Disney. Just call him Walt, it's fine. What? They had no idea they were going to have an audience with Walt Disney himself. So Walt greeted him in his office, and to sort of break the ice and put the boys at ease, he joked about the fact that they're brothers, a working relationship he was rather familiar with. And as the boys sat down, Walt goes, okay, now let me tell you what this film is about. It's about twin girls who conspire to get their divorced parents back together. I don't think that's the we were supposed to write for the Horse Masters. Why don't you stop me? Play me what you got. So they sit down, they play the Strumming song. And when it was over, Walt said, yeah, that'll work. Now about these twins. So they walked out there with Strumming song being picked up and an assignment to work of what would become the Parent Trap, and that led to another assignment and another assignment and another assignment. And finally, during one fateful meeting, Walt looked at him and says, you know, you boys think story, and that's good. Have you ever heard of Mary Poppins? And I go, no. So we gave him a copy of the book. The boys went home all excited and did not escape from the opportunity that they were being given. And they were going through the stories, and it was their suggestion to move it from the 1930s, which is where the books take place, to 1910, Edwardian England. They felt that the English music hall style of the time would give the songs they would write a bit of more whimsy to fit the story. They selected several chapters they thought would make a good story, and wrote a handful of songs. And in their next meeting with Walt, they showed them the chapters that they wanted to do in the movie, and Walt smiled, got a copy of his book, and he had selected the very same chapters. So the Sherman Brothers sat down and played a handful of songs they had written to that point, and when they were finished, Walt was actually kind of quiet, just sort of sitting there. And he goes, play that Bergman song again. And they obliged. When they were done, again, he was silent for a little bit. He goes, okay. All right, well, make sure you stipulate the songs you've already written for us when they write up your contract. Walt Disney signed his first and only staff songwriters. They were then teamed up with artist and storyman Don DeGrado to flush out the story a little bit more. Sherman Brothers wrote more songs, came up with a treatment, presented it to Walt. Walt liked it, and once again reached out to P.L. Travers. This time, evidently 7th time's the charm, she agreed to come out to the studio and hear the pitch in person. There was no deal, nor even the promise of a deal, but at least she was coming out. And in April 1961, P.L. Travers, Don DeGrado, and the Sherman Brothers sat in the Sherman Brothers office and discussed the first outline of Mary Poppins. Now, a little sidetrack here. Back in 1999-2000, as Diane Disney Miller was working on the film Walt, the Man Behind the Myth, I was asked to restore a 15-hour interview that Walt had done in his backyard. It was just a casual interview. It's basically notes for what would become Diane's book, The Story of Walt Disney. And as I was finishing it, Richard Sherman stopped by my office, and I played him some clips. And he goes, you know, I have something you might be interested in. I go, what? He goes, well, let me see if I can find it first, and I'll be back. A few days later, he showed up in my office with a stack of 7-inch open reel tapes. They were the Mary Poppins story meetings. At Mrs. Travers' request, putting it lightly, there was a tape recorder in the room while they were discussing and changing and altering things, and I went nuts. I have to admit, and I'm not ashamed, that Mary Poppins is my favorite film. So listen to these recordings, particularly as a historical aspect, it was just beyond my imagination. Now, listening to Walt tell his life story, it was one thing, because it was casual Walt, and you hear the legends of what a great storyteller was, and that is so completely true. But these story meetings, it's creative people making discussions and creating things and changing things around, having discussions about stuff. It just enthralled me. And a couple of things really stood out as I was going through these recordings. And the first is what you're going to hear Mrs. Travers say in this clip I'm about to play. The first voice you hear will be that of Don DeGrody, and then Mrs. Travers.
Well, it looks like you have to take over entirely. It doesn't seem to have. We know how to control it. And here we put in something that we shall be able to refer to as a clue later on when Mr. Banks half guesses the truth that Mary Poppins had once been his name. Just a little something in the script. I'll help you with it later. We telephoned and alerted us to the longest time in which we read the qualifications for an old-fashioned manner of spare rod for child's food. Now we come to my notes here, my typewritten notes. It is integral to the book and to the story in whatever form is presented that Mary Poppins should never be impolite with anybody. We get the comedy out of this grave, quiet, polite person through which all the strange magic happens. He asks her a few things, you see, because you say later on, he thought the beginning there was something wrong with her. And it would be very good if he said, and what was your life's condition? Seemed to have seen her, but we didn't think so. The other family of refuser, and where before that was a family of even greater refuser.
Obviously, once I restored these and transferred them, I sent a copy off to archives so they can have it as well. And about 12, 13 years later, it came in handy when they were working on Saving Mr. Banks. As I said, Richard told me he had never listened to the tapes. And I spent about 3 months going through the stuff, and I knew it backwards and forwards. He lived it once, and I lived it for 3 months over and over again, which was an honor for me. So when Richard came to pick up the tapes, I said, oh, I just got to play you something. I just got to play you something. And he was kind of really hesitant. And Richard was never really that way. And he goes, okay. And he goes over and he sits in my guest chair. And I catch out of the corner of my eye, Richard sitting in my chair, grasping the armrest and just, I go, that's kind of odd. I mean, that's not Richard at all. I go, all right. Well, then I hit play.
For it's a jolly holiday. That's right. Mary makes your home so fine. When the day is gray, come on.
When her voice came on, he leapt out of the chair and said, turn it off, I can't listen to anymore. And I couldn't figure out why. And then it dawned on me. When he and his brother started writing songs, one of their songs was picked up by Gene Autry called Gold Can Buy You Anything But Love. And then they started writing for Annette. And more projects came, and they're in the office with Walt, and they're handed Mary Poppins, and this is a meteoric rise that happened with 1-2 years, from relative obscurity into working on this major project that they knew by this time that he'd been trying to get done for about 20 years. And Walt conveniently wasn't around during the P.L. Travers meetings. And it was left to Don DeGrody and the Sherman Brothers to basically sell it to him. So all that pressure was right back on Richard's shoulders again, and he was back in that room in 1961. And it obviously was a very traumatic experience for him. But I had found something that I thought he really needed to hear. And so I told him that, and he very reluctantly said, okay. And he sits back there in the chair, and I hadn't even spun around to the control yet, and back here. And then I hit play. holding onto the arms of the chair, when her voice came in, his expression widened, and he looked up and he said, "Is she singing?" I go, "Yeah." She said she hated that song. You don't sing along with a song you hate. And that is also a perfect example of the complexities of P.L. Travers. She's not a villain, you know, she was hard to work with and very particular about stuff. But, you know, if you've seen Saving Mr. Banks, I can't really speak to her personal side of the story, but you have to understand that Mary Poppins means more to her than we will ever know. And speaking of Saving Mr. Banks, it's a wonderful film. You know, it's not a documentary. It's not meant to be a documentary. Some things are absolutely verbatim, exactly the way they happen. Some of them are impressions, but all the emotional pillars and the essence of what happened is true. Now, there is one segment, if you remember, if you've seen the film, where P.L. Travers grabs Don DeGrady and they start dancing around in the room. Very out of character for her. Well, that actually happened. What the original ending of the story is after the Banks family goes and flies a kite, they're heading back to their home, and all the denizens, all the characters they've met throughout the entire movie are tracing back to the house. And Mrs. Travers wanted to have a waltz to sort of have a big ending, sort of dance around and stuff. So she asked for a waltz, and Richard just plays I Love to Laugh. It's just audio, you can't really kind of lose track of what's really going on, but it was just something that I really wanted to share with you. I don't know what's really going on there, but for that brief moment, they were having a lot of fun. I should also point out what I told Richard about Feed the Birds, that her singing it. Of all the songs that were in this first draft, including songs that never made it in the film, that is the only song she ever sang along to. I said earlier that there were a couple of things that really stood out to me when I first started working on the story meetings. And that's just how close this version of the film was, well, this treatment was to the final film. It's a little more streamlined, some things were combined together. The biggest difference was the deletion of the compass sequence. Mary Poppins had a magic compass, and wherever the kids would spin it, that's where they'd go. Spin it, it turns north, and the kids end up in the North Pole.
Though the wolf and the bear are blessed with fur to spare, and walruses and seals are quilted to their heels, we quite freely admit that we shiver a bit when the icy breezes blow. So to keep warm in a blizzard or a storm, we do the North Pole polka. All the winter through, we do the North Pole.
And now the kids are cold, and they spin the compass again, and they end up in an arid desert.
Here in the land of sand, nothing is what it seems. Visions may be real, and the real thing.
You might recognize that tune. After the compass sequence was scrapped, the Shermans put the songs on the shelf, and a few years later, Land of Sand was pulled out again, given new lyrics, and became Trust in Me in the Jungle Book. Another song that was written, and it came in after the P.L. Travers meetings, and before the script was finalized, you might recognize this one too. Richard told me that when it was cut from Mary Poppins, again they put it on a shelf, and when he began work on Bedknobs and Broomsticks, there was an opportunity for that song, and it is intact the way they wrote it originally for Mary Poppins. Now there's another song that was cut from the film, but actually ends up in the film, though nobody's really singing it. After a boom, 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 the need for punctuality, you'll be safely assumed, soon, is known throughout the Admiralty. It's me, I, sir. Oh yes, it is I, Admiral Boom. Irwin Coxwell used it as score. I absolutely love Irwin Coxwell's arrangements, the textures, the way he would combine instruments to create. He uses an E-flat clarinet and an oboe, though they're in different keys, playing the very same note, and it sounds like a hurdy-gurdy. It's just brilliant work. When I worked on the Mary Poppins soundtrack for the 40th anniversary back in 2004, it was the first time I was actually able to include all of Irwin's underscore. And in order to do that, I had all the orchestra sessions and I was going through things, and I came across a couple things that I thought was really, really cool and conferred with Richard about it. And he confirmed and told me a couple of stories. The first is in the Spoonful of Sugar sequence, when Mary has Mrs. Travers, Mary Poppins, has a duet with the bird. Irwin Coxwell and boys were sitting there talking about what were they going to do, and get a professional bird caller in to do it. And Julie Andrews overheard it and says, "I can do it." "Really?" "Go into the booth." Here she is. One take. One of my other favorites in the film are the penguin waiters. Now, the story goes that originally it was going to be waiters in tuxes. And Walt offhandedly said, "You know, formal waiters in tuxes always reminded me of penguins." And I personally think this is one of Frank Thomas's best character animations of his entire career. I just absolutely love them. And if you remember the entrance, they're playing that P tune, Entrance of the Gladiators, which is a very common circus kind of song, and you hear there's a kazoo over the top of it. Well, I pulled the orchestra back. I made a special clip for you guys here and fade the orchestra back to just reveal just the kazoo, and at that point I'll tell you who's playing the kazooist. Who's playing the kazoo? When we did the Lost Chords, where we I had Richard Sherman in the studio, and we took a lot of the demos and songs that weren't used, and we orchestrated them, and vocalists come in, and one of the songs that we did was the Chimpanzee, and we had Richard playing the kazoo on that one too. The other part, again, sorry, the Penguins, is the soft shoe. You know, their soft shoe routine, and you hear the Foley of the soft shoe. That sound was provided by musical director Irwin Costle playing his belly. Here's an outtake where he actually kind of screws up the rhythm.
Take 3. Cut.
It's so obvious that everybody had a really good time making Mary Poppins. It must have been incredible being on the studio lot while it was in production, because most, if not all, the sound stages were in use. There was platforms set up on the Zorro Village in the back lot for the dancing rehearsals. I'd known the Sherman Brothers since 1989. I got to spend a couple hours talking to Irwin Costle, another hour talking to Peter Ellenshaw. And when you see these DVDs and things, and people talking about working on classic films, they go, well, it was a good experience. And here, every single person knew that they were working on something truly, truly special, which kind of reaffirms my belief that Mary Poppins is Walt Disney's cinematic masterpiece. It got nominated for 15 Academy Awards. It won 5. Cotton Warburton won for editing. Peter Ellenshaw won for visual effects and the matte painting. And of course, Julie Andrews for Best Actress, and the Sherman Brothers for Best Song, Chim Chim Tree, and Best Score. Look at all the things that had to happen for Mary Poppins to happen. Diane had to read the book. Mrs. Travers had to say no. Because if she had said yes, who knows what would have been. Walt hadn't gotten really into live action yet. Julie Andrews was 5. The Sherman Brothers were 8 and 12. Dick Van Dyke was 12. You know, and then Davy Crockett had to kickstart the record label. Tutti Camarata had to hire the Sherman Brothers. All these things had to fall in place. And having worked for Walt Disney Records for nearly 38 years now, I take a great deal of pride knowing that the Sherman Brothers got their start at the record label. And in a couple weeks will actually be the 60th anniversary of the premiere of Mary Poppins. And we have put together a really incredible box set. It's the Legacy Collection on vinyl. The first 2 discs are the soundtrack with Laura Bouvet's incredible artwork. The second one is our Demos and Lost Chords, where we have the demos and the re-recordings of the Lost Chords. And the jacket is the original demo tape. And the third disc is, well, it's a 2 LP set as well. And LP 1 is excerpts from the P.L. Travers story meetings. And disc 2 is interview with Hollywood Spotlight microphone that was done right after the premiere. And the B-side of that is Richard and Robert reminiscing about their work on Mary Poppins. That we recorded them in 1989 for the first CD release of the Mary Poppins soundtrack. Also included is the Mary Poppins original 1964 soundtrack, complete with the original gatefold jacket. 10 songs from Mary Poppins, or a children's version, with Marnie Nixon, Bill Lee, Pamela Shannon, and Richard Sherman, who's singing for Uncle Albert. He's singing I Love to Laugh. A little bit of interesting trivia here. Julie Andrews originated the role of Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady. And when Warner Brothers opted to do the film, Jack Warner didn't want Julie Andrews because they didn't know who she was. And so they got Audrey Hepburn, beautiful lady, not so much in the singing part. And Marnie Nixon was the singing voice for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady, and she is voicing Mary Poppins here. She was also the singing voice for Natalie Wood in West Side Story. She's done a lot of those. That's followed by Let's Fly with Mary Poppins, Louis Prima and Giammione. He was so taken by the music from Mary Poppins that after his Las Vegas show at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd go into the recording studio and do one song a night or lay down a couple of tracks and everything. And it's a really interesting take on the songs from Mary Poppins, and it is that album that got him the gig of King Louie in The Jungle Book. That's followed. This next one's a little bit of an oddity. When our music publishing division commissioned band arrangements of Mary Poppins songs, they worked with the UCLA marching band to do a demo recording so the bands that would receive these arrangements would have an understanding of what those arrangements were. Now, all 9 of these discs were pressed on 180-gram vinyl, and Mary Poppins, 10 songs from Mary Poppins, and Let's Fly with Mary Poppins, and March Along with Mary Poppins were all remastered from the original album master. Along with the set, you also get a nice print, concept drawing of the Jolly Holiday sequence as the racehorses have left the carousel, as well as a beautiful spec drawing of the carousel itself. Wanted to give you 2 different kinds of artwork on there. And then there's a reproduction of the original vocal lead sheet for Feed the Birds included as well. And it's all packaged in this beautiful flip-top box where we've used Peter Ellenshaw's skyline, London skyline, as the entire cover. It's absolutely gorgeous and really quite proud of it, if I do say so myself. As we all know, Feed the Birds was Walt's favorite song. And on Friday afternoons, he'd call the boys over into his office, and they would talk about things going on in the studio, current events, world affairs, and Walt would get that look in his eye, or he'd just turn to Richard and say, play it. And Richard would go over to the piano and play Feed the Birds. And after Walt passed away, there was a meeting Friday afternoon that Richard would go and play it for him. And now, in honor of Richard Sherman, I would like to return the favor. What you're about to hear is from the demo tape, just Richard and the piano, the way Walter heard it those Friday afternoons.
Early each day to the steps of St. Paul's, the little old bird lady comes. In her own special way to the people she calls, come buy my bags full of crumbs. Come feed the little birds, show them you care, and you'll be glad if you do. Their young ones are hungry, their nests are so bare. All it takes is tuppence from you. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag, tuppence, tuppence, tuppence a bag. Feed the birds, that's what she cries, while overhead her the saints and apostles look down as she vends her wares. Although you can't see it, you know they are smiling each time someone shows that he cares. Though her words are simple and few, listen, listen, she's calling to you. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag, tuppence, tuppence, tuppence a bag.
Richard Sherman, like Walt Disney, his brother, and Mary Poppins, was one of the few who left this world a better place than they found it, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
So as you may have guessed, not one of us walked out of that panel with a dry eye. I mean, I had to sit down for about 5 minutes and collect myself before I could move on with my day at D23. I don't know how he got the audio so clear. It was like Richard Sherman was there in the room with us.
Well, just getting through this right now, it's very hard to have a dry eye.
It is. I'm like, oh my God.
This is history. The fact that they had that this tape did not disintegrate or catch on fire. Walt's, his spirit protecting this.
Yeah. Walt and the Sherman Brothers, like it's all rolled into one for us Disney fans, really.
Yeah, it's great. At D23, they'll pull out these little gems.
Oh, yeah.
Things that you never knew existed, or things that you would think, there's no way this could survive these last couple of decades or half a century. And they say, oh, but wait, here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is right here.
It's
mind-blowing.
It is. And later that day, we also attended the Disney Parks Showcase at the Honda Center. And this was the second tribute to the Sherman Brothers that we randomly witnessed that day, because after the announcement that the Imagineers are working on a Walt Disney animatronic for an update to Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
You know, make people mad
in
when
Disneyland.
you say that.
Well, we were treated to that second Sherman Brothers tribute of the day. Meghan Trainor came out, and she and the full symphony orchestra on stage performed Feed the Birds. And this was another tear-jerking moment. And there's a reason this is Walt's favorite song.
Her words are simple and true. Listen, listen, she's calling to you.
That wraps up episode 479 of
Skywalking Through Neverland. We want to thank all the Skywalkers for watching our live streams and for subscribing on YouTube to the Skywalking channel. And we want to thank everyone for watching the live stream and contributing in the Sky Chat.
Yeah, we love talking to you guys as we record our episodes.
And remember, we need 6 more subscribers on YouTube by next week.
Grab your friend's phone.
Yes.
Do it. You can also find us on socials. We are at Skywalking Pod. And if you want to view some reels straight from D23 and San Diego Comic-Con, they are all there. All right, do you have things you want to share? Well, we do, and you can join us every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific as we share things we've done the past week, or we update you on our live appearances, or we even invite you Skywalkers to come on and share something you've done or something you've just added to your collection.
Yeah, tonight we're going to have a couple of Skywalkers on to share what they have just added to their collection. So come one, come all. Now, are you interested in our books, Today in Star Wars History and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook? Well, they are both available at skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book. And if you get them there, we can autograph it for you. You can personalize it, or you can get them through Amazon. That's just as good.
Mm-hmm.
Or skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book.
Autographing is better.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Would you also like to support Skywalking Through Neverland through the Skywalking Force, which is our Patreon? Well, the Skywalking Force has access to bonus content in the form of our Zoom discussions on the past Disney Plus shows. Episode 500 is coming up. We're definitely going to have some kind of party for the Skywalking Force.
In 21 more weeks.
Yeah, 21 more weeks. That's right. Agatha All Along is next month. We're super excited about that. So we're going to have to start up our Zoom discussions. You will also get a coupon code to use for our books. And this bonus content begins at only $5 a month. So head to skywalkingforce.com and have a look at the options. And now a huge heartfelt thank you to those of you who are already part of the Skywalking Force.
You make this show happen week in and week out. Now, we want to also thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations, for their continued support. Thinking of a trip to a Disney park or a Disney cruise? We can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today. Their vacation planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Get ready, Skywalkers. It's coming.
We are part of the Skywalking Network. Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes,
the Max Effects Podcast,
the Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
Star Warsologies,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and
Today in Star Wars History.
Julie coming in at the end with a Skynet. Good job, Julie.
Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember
to have a spoonful of sugar.
And Neverland on Alderaan. Okay. And clappy claps, spit spot. Very good.
Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.